Hi everyone, it's Lindy Yan from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I've got a really fun technique to show you. We're going to be doing some embossing using our dies, and I also want to show you a brand new set of stamps from Art Impressions. So let's get started by taking a look at this beautiful watercolor poinsettia stamp set. I'm going to be using those little poinsettias today. And then I did want to mention to you that there is a bundle set available right now. So if you buy all 4 of these sets, you can see that one has the beautiful trees. This one has the 2 little wreaths on it, which are really great for some of your smaller scenes. And then this one has all the foliage you would need to create a really pretty wreath. So if you're interested in the bundle set, I'll list all of these down below, and I'll link them as well, and also on my blog. And again, that bundle set is currently on sale, and I believe it's 20% off. So let's start by grabbing those 3 different sizes of poinsettias. I've got my watercolor travel box, which does include 3 acrylic blocks. It's also got a little watercolor palette in there. And then what we're going to do is use some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock and the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And let's go ahead and stamp these. Now for the card, I'm going to be creating 3 poinsettias. But what I'm going to do is stack these up so that we get a really dimensional poinsettia. At this point, I just decided just to stamp a whole bunch of these images. I wasn't exactly sure how many I needed at this point, so I'm just stamping quite a few of everything. And then what we're going to do is start coloring these. I'm using the sugared almond pink and the wine red. And I'll just lay down a little bit of the sugared almond pink, and then I'll put that wine red up on the base of the petals, and then I'll just pull it out towards the edges, just keeping the tips of the petals the lightest. And there you can see that I'm just removing some of that ink. If you get too much, you can just scribble that onto your scrap paper and remove as much or as little ink as you like. So I wanted to show you how I colored in one of these, and then I will color the rest of these off camera. And I do want to apologize for the sound of my voice today. I've got a little bit of a cold, so I sound a little bit nasal, but we'll keep forging forward here. And this card was just so much fun to make. I love these little poinsettias. I can think of a million different ways we could use these to decorate our tags, to create little elements for the top of a box. So these are really fun. So again, you can see me coming back in with that darker color and just adding a few shadows here and there. So again, I colored the rest of those off camera, and then to cut these out, there are no coordinating dies. So I'm just going to use my detail scissors and cut right around the edges. Once I've got all of those cut out, I'm using my black Tombow dual tip marker, and I'm just going to go around the edges just to finish those off. That'll just take away any of that little white edge. And that's just the black Tombow pen. I've got my sculpting mat from Sizzix, and I've got my sculpting tool. This little kit comes with 2 or 3 of the little sculpting tools, and you get a pair of scissors, and you get this little sculpting mat. So it's a nice little set, and it's really easy to sculpt your flowers. You just want to press down and push those petal tips upward. And then for the smaller ones, you can just press down right in the center, and they'll just pop right up. I've got a little bit of Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and we're going to glue these 3 together. So for the larger one on the card, I've got 3 layers of the poinsettias. The small, medium, and large. And you can see how dimensional this is. Now for the 2 smaller ones, I'm going to use the medium and the small poinsettias. And I'm just going to stack those up. And I've got 2 of those all set and ready to go. Now, if you can see that gold in the center, that's the Hero Arts gold pearls. And these are just beautiful. You do want to just squeeze the bottle off your project first. Just make sure there's no air bubbles or anything. And then come right to your project And this will give a beautiful little gold pearlized center to each of these flowers. And that one I just showed you up close, that one is already dry, so you can see how pretty these are. So let's set those other two aside to dry. And now I've got the Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits. This set is called Merry and Bright. And I'm going to grab the little ferns and then these little ones that look like little berries. And that's from that same Hero Arts pearls. This is the white pearl. We used gold before. And I'm going to put a little white pearl on each of these little berries. And I have to say, these just came out so beautiful, very elegant. Once I did all of those, I will set those aside to dry. And these pearls go on really easily. They're very easy to work with. I did find with these that you don't get that weird little peak at the top. It just is really pretty and rounded off. So again, these were really fun to play with. So let's go ahead and add some glitter to these little branches. I've got the Zig two-way glue pen, which that just means that if you let it dry completely, it will be sticky like Post-it note sticky. It's a temporary sticky. If you use it right away, it's a permanent adhesive. So I'm just going to place a little bit on the tips of each of those branches, and then we'll sprinkle on that beautiful Tim Holtz rock candy glitter, which is really kind of a little bit chunky, and it's just so gorgeous. Once I have those all done, let's grab from the Tim Holtz Vault series, the Christmas one, and look at all these great images you get. I use this one a lot. I love this. You can even create those little 3D stars. But we're going to be using that Christmas sentiment and the Lawn Fawn Sparkle cardstock in the gold. I've die cut 3 of these, 2 from the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and that other one from that sparkly gold, and we're just going to stack these up. We'll just glue these together. If you have trouble with some of these more detailed dies, I like to use my little tweezers. And then what I can do is just kind of get in there and just kind of, I don't know if clamping is the right word, but just kind of like squeeze those together so they line up perfectly. I find that works really well for me. Once I have that one done, we'll go ahead and glue on that last one, and then we can put something heavy on this and set this aside to dry. I've got the frame. This is the Snowflake frame set. This is another newer die set from Art Impressions, and you get additional snowflakes in here as well. I went ahead and die cut that frame out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. I used my little pick tool to pick out any of those little extra pieces. And now I've got a piece of vellum paper, which is that clear translucent paper. I'm going to stamp a sentiment on here. So I'm just laying this out so I can get a rough idea. And we're going to grab that sentiment that says Christmas Magic. And that's from the Art Impressions Christmas Sentiment Set. Now it is all one sentiment. So what I'm going to do is cut off that word magic. You can certainly leave this all together and just ink up the word magic, but I'm going to cut these in half so I don't have to deal with that. And we can certainly put that together again later on if we want to use that whole sentiment. I'm just placing that just temporarily down just so I can kind of see where I want that sentiment to be. I've got it in my mini Misty stamp positioner, and now I can remove the frame and we can go ahead and stamp this. Just to make sure there's no static, because we are going to be embossing this, I'm using the Pink and Main Magic Anti-Static Powder Tool. And then I've got my Versamark Watermark ink pad. I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. This is an embossable ink. And now we can go ahead and emboss this. I'm going to be using the Ranger Super Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. We'll just sprinkle some of that on, tap away any excess. Now if you do have a little bit of powder there that's stuck, you can grab a small paintbrush and just brush that away. Now we can go ahead and heat set this. I would recommend getting your heat tool nice and hot before you get started, and then go ahead and emboss this because you don't want to get too much of that warping. And there you can see that really pretty bright white sentiment. So this is going to stack up just like this. But I want some pattern paper for underneath here, and I thought this really pretty snowflake paper would be gorgeous. But it is a double-sided paper, so you can use any side that you like. This is the Christmas Season 2 paper pack. So you can see, again, all these little small, beautiful designs that you get that are perfect for these projects. And I'll just give you a quick look at that. So let's go ahead and glue these two together. And I just thought, again, that paper showing underneath is just going to be really subtle and elegant. Once I have those two glued together, I'm going to glue that frame on. And I'm putting plenty of glue on all of those little pieces, so this will lay nice and flat. And then you can also use your fingers just to kind of spread that out. Now once I had that glued together, I'm going to place something heavy on there and let that sit and dry. Once that was dry, I'm grabbing the sentiment, the Christmas sentiment, and let's go ahead and glue that down. And I love this Christmas sentiment. It is just so pretty, so elegant. And again, we'll let that dry. So let's go ahead and dot that eye with the sparkly gold cardstock, but we're going to be adding something else to this a little bit later. So I'm just going to glue that down for now. And then the next thing I want to do is show you the large snowflake dies from Art Impressions. And we're going to be using this to actually emboss this Tim Holtz Metallic Classics cardstock in the gold. And when you're embossing, the metallic papers emboss so beautifully. So what I want to show you is how to emboss using your dies. So I've got my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I've got the platform, and then I need the mat. And this is all right on the platform exactly how to do this. Got that rubber mat. I've got my metallic gold cardstock face up, and then I'm going to lay these dies around this cardstock. Now I'm not going to glue them in place with any temporary tape because when I run this through, it's going to show. The marks from the tape will show. I did try it, but there were definitely lines that were showing through. Now if you were using a regular cardstock, you might not have that problem. So I just laid the cardstock right on the platform here, and then I just laid out all of my dies, making sure I go edge to edge with the dies, and then we'll run this through. Now, you'll want to use the directions for your specific machine. With the Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine, there is an embossing plate. I'm going to lay that over top of that whole sandwich, and I'm going to run that slowly through the die cutting machine. I'm just going to kind of get my little dies. They wanted to pop all over the place there. And now look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? So it didn't cut through the cardstock. It just embossed this cardstock. So if you don't have an embossing folder that's exactly what you want, take a look through your dies because you can really do some beautiful things with these dies. So now I'm going to glue this to a standard A2 size card. And let's go ahead and attach that frame. So again, keep in mind what you have for dies. Florals would be beautiful to do this embossing background. Any of your smaller dies would be really fun to make a background. Now I'm going to place something heavy on this again so that it dries nice and flat. And now let's go ahead and do our little flower arrangements. So I've got the large and the medium poinsettia down here in the bottom right hand corner. And I'm just going to kind of lay out what I want this to look like. Now you can shape those little fern sprigs with your fingers a little bit just to give them a little more shape, or you could put them back on your sculpting mat and sculpt those a little bit more. Now let's go ahead and start gluing these down. And I find this part to be just so relaxing and so much fun. Just when you get to this point and you're ready to just build up your little embellishments and your little scene, I just love this. And I love those little sprigs with the berries on them. I think they're gorgeous. I think you could put any color on those, like a turquoise or a bright red or whatever you like would be really pretty. So I'm just tucking these in. I'm putting a little glue right on the ends, on the top and underneath, and then just sliding those in. So you do want to tuck things in while everything, you can still kind of move it around. So what I like to do is just, if I need to move anything while that glue is still wet, I can kind of shift things around a little bit. So let's go ahead and tuck a few of those up here at the top. Now these little poinsettias could be in white as well, which would really give this a very subtle, elegant look. Or red would be beautiful. So just have some fun with this. By adding that glitter, I think that added a lot to this. The little bit of sparkle on those branches is just so pretty. And again, you could use some green branches here or whatever color you like. So I wanted to keep this very elegant and very subtle. So that's why I kind of stuck with the whites and the golds. And then my pink flowers will be the star of the show. I'm just filling in any little open areas, and that looks pretty good. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to add a little pastel pink heart from Dress My Craft right over top on the eye there, because that little bit of sparkle is going to show through, so it's going to be really pretty. So a little dot of glue, I'll grab one of these smaller hearts and we'll pop that in place. So that finishes off the card for today. Let's take a closer look at this, and again, that beautiful embossing that we have, I just love that. And our gorgeous sentiment and these brand new poinsettias from Art Impressions. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.